Why don't we go into game one of the top 32 here in Indiana?
Just a reminder that this is going to be 45 minutes, best 2 out of 3 between Isaias on the right and Jinyu on the left. There we go. I see 5, and then Isaias is going to be rolling. That's a 10.
I'll go second.
I'll go second. He said I'll go second. I knew it. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so exciting. These are always my favorite games of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the amount of pain that your opponent must be experiencing when you're like, what? Why did he just say that? Why did he just say that?
Is this man on Tenpai? What could he be playing?
Yes.
He's on Rock Tenpai today.
Well, let's go ahead and see what Jinyu has for his opening move. He's going to start off with Lack of the Crimson Tears. Going to go and send FIENDSMITH card to the graveyard, and it looks like it's going to be FIENDSMITH Engraver this time.
I know we're getting really excited about, ooh, I wonder what Isaias is going to do with this Gem Knight deck. But let's not forget, he's playing against probably one of the strongest combinations of archetypes in this entire format. FIENDSMITH, MITSURUGI, and RYZEAL. He has to be watching out for scary things at every corner. And going second, that probably means you're playing a more board breaker focused deck and just sort of letting your opponent play. And that can be really dangerous depending on how hard Jinyu could go this turn.
Well, getting a little bit of a look at the deck there, but we're going to go ahead and bring out FIENDSMITH Engraver in defense mode. So 3 Light Fiends already in the graveyard, feeling pretty good so far, especially if you're going to Fusion Summon later.
Yep, so far I think it's business as usual when it comes to the FIENDSMITH engine. Isaiah's just, I believe, thinking here in response to the Requiem effect to equip. I believe we're going to let that go through. Oh, no, we're actually using the Engraver effect to summon itself out. And we're going to chain to that Molcharming Meows. Not normally a Molcharming you see all the time in the main deck, but has been probably a really cool tech inclusion for dealing with decks like Malice in the format. But getting a free draw here off this Engraver feels pretty good.
You have to imagine if you're running Molcharming Meows in a go second deck, you're expecting to see Malice and FIENDSMITH-based decks as the predominant decks in the format. Again, special summoning from Graveyard. There are a couple of other decks, again, that are special summoning from the Banishment, like we mentioned, Malice. So it's a nice all-rounder Molcharming. You're usually going to get something out of it.
I mean, and that also could mean that he's playing all 3 of them, right? Because if you're going to be blind seconding all day, Molcharmies are the best ways in order to kind of enable the amount of cards you might need to break through the biggest boards possible.
Well, speaking of big boards, we did get our FIENDSMITH sequence here. We are going to sequence our plays. Looks like we're just going to fuse all 3 now and go ahead and make FIENDSMITH's Desiree.
Yep, one of the, I believe we had 3 Light Fiends, one of them being a FIENDSMITH Engraver. So there he is, the big boy. Once we equip that sequence, it'll have the potential to negate multiple things. But it looks like we were going straight for a Link 3 right there, but I think we decided against it as Jinyu. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and equip straight to the Desiree the sequence. We're going to set a card, and we're going to pass. There's not that much going on here. Maybe not wanting to play into the Meowls any further, but now it's over to Isaias. And the question on everyone's mind at home, what is he about to do?
This will be, I think, our first Gem Knight feature match throughout the entire weekend. A very popular deck. Just kind of in like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Underground scene, right? Not too many people activating these card effects, but let's start off with activating Gem Armadillo.
I believe that's just the standard on-summon search for a gem card monster, if I remember correctly, but it will be met with Ash Blossom, so the effect will not actually resolve.
Would have gotten you a Gem Knight monster, but not if Ash Blossom has anything to say about it. Oh, the triple tactics thrust!
Classic go second shenanigans, am I right? Monster effect activated in the main phase while you control a monster. I'm going to activate thrust, and right now Jinyu's like, if I don't Desiree this, we might just get a card that I'm forced to Desiree. I like the patience here of allowing the thrust to happen, because if a card that he's searching for is really scary, you can just Desiree that.
Well, it looks like we might be selecting... Oh, he has Shadow Fusion.
Did anyone see that? Did anyone see Shadow Fusion right there?
I think the stream definitely did. We may be bringing Shadows back to the top cut.
Hey, Steven, is Desiree an extra deck monster?
You know, last I checked, I think it is.
Interesting. Shadow Fusion, interesting.
So Shadow actually an integral part of many duelists' road to the World Championship. Shadow mirror matches were all the rage in the recent speed duel qualifiers on Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. But to see Shadow Fusion in somebody's deck in the top 32 of the NAWCQ, holy moly. And speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and, I think, burn off some cards here. Activating Forbidden Droplet.
This is amazing from Isaias here. Sending the... I believe it's called Nephirim,
yes.
to the graveyard here, and not allowing him to respond with Desiree to just go ahead and negate the Desiree's effect and have access to this talent that can either draw 2 cards, take the Desiree, do whatever else he needs to, is going to be super big.
Nephirim.
So Gem Knight Nephirim, of course, you know, when it's summoned, you can go and add a Gem Knight card from Reject Your Hand, except Nephirim, of course. But any effect damage your opponent takes during the main phase's turn is halved. So we're going to have to do up on battle damage. So but during your main phase, you can immediately, after the effect resolves, normal summon the card. And if it's sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, which it just was from the Forbidden Droplet, you could send a card from your hand to the graveyard. If you do, special summon it back to the field.
Ooh, so we get a free body, and we get to turn off the Desiree, and we have a triple tags talent in our hand. I think Isaias is going for something big here this turn.
This is really exciting to see how much of an impact. We talked about Duelist Advance, but Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem, right? We're seeing Gem Knights in the top cut. We have seen Orchest everywhere. It's really neat to be able to see all these different decks that have been supported. There's even a Punk deck in the top 32, which means they probably are using some of the new Punk cards in Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem as well. So a lot of new stuff appearing in this format.
Yep, and we just added Gem Knight Dispersion to our hand as we're Isaiah, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. I do believe we get an additional normal summon here of this Gem Armadillo, which I do believe they're not once per turn cards, so you can keep searching for Gem Knights.
Nobody thought you'd be normal summoning 2 Gem Knight monsters, but literally this deck is built around it now, and so Nephrim's additional effect there for that extra normal summon allowed finally the Armadillo to get through.
And we added Gem Knight Holocore to our hand.
Okay, Arrowhead's confirmed. The materials are 2 monsters. What are we link summoning here?
Oh, that's just going to be Quartz? Yep, there it is. Gem Knight Phantom Quartz. This card on summon will let you get another search of a Gem Knight card, and it'll allow you to fusion summon. But we're just going to go ahead and concede as Jinyu. He's like, I've seen enough. I know what the Master Diamond does, even if I don't need to experience it. Being able to summon multiple monsters in a single turn, all from the extra deck. The damage is about to be insane if you're Isaias. And Jinyu's like, right on the wall.
Because he can't summon rock monsters, but we'll forget about that. Let's go to game 2 here in the top 32 to see what happens next.
All right, let's see what Jinyu chose. First or second. Making Isaias go first is probably a line, but it's dangerous just to let your opponent go first, you know. You never know what they're going to do.
Ooh, I do see a Molcharmi Purulia in the hand, a Harpy's Feather Duster, lots of go second cards there from Isaias.
So he's assuming that, well, I think that means we now know Jinyu's going first for sure, but obviously he made his side without knowing that.
But it looks like Jinyu's going first after all, activating Mitsurugi Prayers and tributing the Habakiri.
This feels like a draw phase, Prayers to hopefully play around things like Draw and Lockbird. I didn't actually hear him declare anything, but that's my assumption. And looks like we're eyeing up that Saji there to be the summon that we do. Because we're doing both effects, we will be able to... Oh, yep. Saji has been committed to the summon there.
Certainly being cautious. This is top 32. If you do not win this game, you are going home, unfortunately. So he's being very cautious correctly.
And because we did use both effects, we will be taking 800 points of damage as Zinyu, going to 72. And now, Saji's effect on summon will search for a Mitsurugi spell or trap card.
All right, so let's go ahead and go back into the deck. Usually this is where you see a Mitsurugi ritual, but let's see what he ends up grabbing after all, depending on what his hand already has. And apparently he is going to go for the Great Purification. We've seen a lot of duelists try to pivot towards that. An in-archetype negate just feels really good, especially with Conserge. I mean, that's Orca's whole game plan. But this deck does it a little bit better, honestly, being able to grab both of these cards here.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool in here. And I think what Jinyu is trying to prioritize here is he now knows, maybe not necessarily what the payoffs are for Isaias' deck, but he knows the choke points, you know, the Gem Armadillos, the Nephirims, the cards that are trying to get him to what he's trying to go for, the Quartz, all those fun things.
Well, speaking of going for things, we've got Bonfire getting the Ice RYZEAL, immediately normal summoned, attempting to activate the effect, and we are going to go ahead and Fuwalos here.
We saw Meowls in the first game sort of maybe put a stymie on Jinyu and give Isaias some much-needed advantage. If this Fuwalos resolves, that's going to be really tough for Jinyu to play around.
He's going to let it go, so we're going to special summon a monster from the deck, and Isaias is going to get a chance to draw 1 card as X RYZEAL hits the field.
And when you go second, the more cards you draw, the better. And I think I just saw a certain card flash in Isaias' hand. I won't mention it. If it comes up, I'll freak out, and that'll be great.
It is a classic for sure. I definitely saw the old school art, and it's you know the inner Yu-Gi-Oh fan of me is just like, no way is that up here, but it is.
Type it in
real
chat.
life.
Type it in chat. Give us a countdown for when it might be played. That'd be fun. All right, but the X RYZEAL comes down. I believe it searched Sword, so classic RYZEAL things. But again, every time you summon from the extra deck or the main deck, it's going to give your opponent more and more cards. Which, the more Broad Breakers you draw, the scarier it gets.
Oh no, and you know how powerful that monster lineup is. So Mitsurugi's Ame no Murokuma no Mitsurugi probably will help, right? That sort of inherent Raigeki, a way to clear those monsters out. But is it going to be enough, especially when you're giving your opponent more cards? So no cards this time, of course. It was Ritual Summon from the hand.
Yeah, that's big. That's huge. Like, normally you're, like, that's the best card to summon from the deck with Ritual. And so, like, making it, like, not awesome for Jinyu to summon that card from the deck was going to be a scary thing about the Fua, but drawing it actually ended up working out for him in this case.
Well, it looks like we're still going to go Exceed Summon, which means we are going to give another card to Isaias there. It's going to be RYZEAL Detonator. I think that's a fair trade. This might be where it stops.
A 2-material Detonator, now becoming 3, I think is worth 1 extra card from a Fua. I would agree with Jinyu for that cost benefit analysis.
Set 2 and pass.
We know one of them is Purification, for sure.
Yep.
Honestly, this is a lot of interaction that Jinyu is representing, but we know of some certain cards that Isaiah's got to draw off that Fua, and here's one of them. Harpy's Feather Duster at the beginning of the main phase to blow up those two back row.
Just the classic. My Valentine would be proud. Right now, Jinyu may not be in love with Harpy's Feather Duster there. Taking a look at the Great Purification, maybe forcing the activation there.
I believe that's to tribute a level 5 or higher reptile, right? Like, can you just tribute Saji to negate the spell trap?
No, doesn't look like it because Ame Nomurokuma no Mitsurugi hitting the graveyard there. I think you probably tripped the Saji if you could.
But how he's forced to summon the Murukuma now or use another card later to summon it. Maybe the set card is Prayers, so he can summon it that way and use the Raigeki effect still. Because if he summoned it now, he'd, I believe, lose out on that window to do it later.
We'll still having to deal with a lot of cards in the present. RYZEAL Detonator, obviously multiple forms of destruction on that single card. And a little bit of protection too, but we're doing Shadow Fusion.
Steven, really quick.
Yeah?
Is RYZEAL Detonator an extra deck monster?
Okay, let me lean in real close to see. You know, it doesn't look like an orange effect monster. It looks like it is a Black Xyz monster, so if my eyes don't fail me, yes, it's from the extra deck.
That means we can fusion summon a Shadal monster using monsters from our main deck. Ooh, baby.
Oh, to destroy itself, to make it resolve without effect. A very heads-up play. Very heads-up play.
Oh, heads-up from Jinyu
and with
right
no
there.
Eclipse Twins, by the way. Jinyu just deciding, you know what? No, it ain't worth it. I can't let my opponent have an El Shadal contract. Who knows what he was going to bring out or send to the graveyard via materials, too.
I mean, if he summoned like something like... Oh my god, is that Shatter Fusion?
It is.
Yeah, that's going to be... Sorry, Scatter Fusion, not Shatter Fusion. Do not break your gems at home. That's a bad idea.
That probably devalues them just a little bit.
Basically, this card allows you to, I believe, it's a continuous spell that lets you, during your main phase, fusion summon a Gem Knight monster, and you can use monsters from your main deck as long as your opponent controls monsters. I believe the wording of the card.
I think it's like up to 2.
Yeah, I think there's a limit to how many times you can do it, as well as how many times you can actually send. Yeah, if your opponent controls a monster, fusion summon one non-rock Gem Knight. That's very important. Using monsters from your deck as material. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except Gem Knight monsters.
Which is incredible because using the Shadow Fusion, you kind of telegraph the same effect. I'm going to fuse from my deck, and it is totally dependent on you having a monster from your extra deck. RYZEAL Detonator, of course, detonated itself, but the Scatter Fusion dropping immediately after, that is unfortunate because would it have been easier to deal with these extra fusion monsters if you kept your RYZEAL Detonator?
So here we see Mitsurugi Prayers being activated, tributing Saji. Now, if we're using both effects, we will still have a monster in play after all this, but we're not going to be summoning off of it. We're just using it to tribute Saji, and now we're using Saji's effect when tributed to search for a spell trap. So this will make Shadow Fusion not be able to activate. It is a continuous spell, so it has to be in play before it can activate, so he's able to do this with the quick play spell Prayers. But now, how does he summon back out the Murakumo? He's essentially losing out on all of his interaction.
Well, better that than the big beefy bodies of the Gem Knight fusions, but this is really interesting. I don't think I've seen much tournament play like this where someone destroys their own monsters in order to prevent the effects activating. Like sometimes we'll see that with things like Triple Tactics Talent, attempting to take a RYZEAL Detonator, especially with an Eclipse Twins underneath it. But this is totally different. Every time he plays a card where his opponent's supposed to have advantage, and that's what gets him back in the game. Shinyu's like, nope, I don't have these cards. Abandon ship.
Yep, and there we see the Nephilim going to search for the Gem Knight Dispersion. That's another fusion spell, and I believe this one also lets you fusion from the main deck. I believe it's fusion summon one Gem Knight monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. Up to 2 monsters from your deck or extra deck can also be used if they are non-rock Gem Knight monsters. I believe Armadillo is a beast, so he's good. Or you could just add one Gem Knight monster from your deck or bench with your hand, and any effect that you do for the rest of the turn is halved. So he's actually adding the Gem Knight Armadillo and using the extra normal summon from Nephilim to summon it to the field.
I love cards like that. Something that comes to mind is Dark Contact, where the card has 2 different effects, and you can only use each of them once per turn, but you can activate multiple copies in a turn, meaning if you happen to, you know, draw a house of cards, you know, and you feel like, oh no, this has kind of locked me up. No, it hasn't. Just play and play again.
This is addition.
And I think the reasoning for this is I think I saw in Isaiah's hand the regular Gem Knight Fusion, which will allow him to fusion summon using the monsters he has in field into a Gem Knight monster. All these fusion spells. He's used 4 different fusion spells in one turn.
But no fusions have actually appeared on the field, so finally we reach for the extra deck. Gem Knight Fusion in 2025 in the year of our Ra. This is insane.
And I believe we are using another Nephilim as fusion material here, which is a light monster. And is that... I think that's...
Is that just...
That's not Seraphinite. That is... Oh, that's Lady Rose Diamond.
Oh,
wow.
I believe that came out in Power of the Elements a few years back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Gem Knights have gotten a lot of support over the years, and you have a great memory because, yep, it did come out in Power of the Elements. So this one, once per turn, the first time a Gem Knight monster be destroyed by a card effect, it is not destroyed. Great effect that reminds me almost of like the Cipher Dragon. But during your turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, banish a Gem Knight card from your graveyard, target a face-up card your opponent controls, destroy it. Wait, now he's got the detonator.
Here we see Nephirim being used with the Gem Armadillo because it was summoned back after it was used for fusion material. This will allow him to go into that Phantom Quartz we saw, which can search for any Gem Knight card and add to his hand. He's going to get another Dispersion, and now he can use the fusion effect still, like you said earlier. He has not used that effect yet. And Quartz can also perform a fusion summon if he needs one.
It's so funny how many times we're trying to fuse. This is happening. He went to Duel Academy, right? He is a fusion expert.
He said, you've tried to stop me 3 times in a row, but that's 3 times too many. I'm going to keep fusioning from here on out, and you can't stop me. I believe Xinyu here is just clarifying that you can use either effect once per turn. We're going to be fusioning from the deck, sending off another Nephirim, and I believe, is that... What? I don't know what that other monster was. I think it was... Is that a Nashadal...
Quartz effect?
Was that a Shadal monster?
I think it might have been, yeah.
I mean, he must have a Shadal monster in his deck to have a target for Shadal fusion, of course. No, that's... Oh gosh, what's the name of that Gem Knight monster? I believe it's just regular Gem Knight Quartz.
And I can show back materials from my discard.
That's just main deck Gem Knight Quartz, I believe.
Summon any Gem Knight
so wild
monster,
to see it all.
And it cannot attack directly this turn.
This one cannot attack, or
the monster I summon cannot attack directly this turn.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just regular Gem Knight Quartz. Cool.
Shuffling back.
And then that brings out Seraphinite because Nephirim, like I said earlier, is a light monster. So now he has another additional normal summon.
So many normal summons, so many fusion summons. Interesting, it doesn't sort of play out with how many monsters we're seeing in the field, but we're finally getting there. So Isaias drops his 5th monster onto the field.
Yep, that's going to be the Phantom Quartz to bring out the Master Diamond Dispersion. This is the monster I mentioned earlier that during the main phase you can send to the graveyard and summon 3 more non-rock Gem Knight fusion monsters from your extra deck.
This one cannot attack.
So we don't have that handy-dandy button on Master Duel that lets us see the cumulative attack points. We know one monster cannot attack, but this is about to be a huge chunk of damage and just one more monster on the field, maybe swapping out the one that can attack with another.
Sure.
This may be the battle phase to end it all and move Isaias and the Gem Knight deck to the top 16.
I mean, we already have at least 5,700 life points thanks to the Lady Diamond and Master Diamond. I'm just curious how much attack points Nephirim has. I think it's like 1550. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay, great. Yeah, all the like normal Gem Knight monsters have like 1450, 1950, like random amounts of attack.
There are diamonds in the rough. Leave them be. Leave them be. But it does look like we're Link summoning.
Link.
Yep.
Gonna send off Phantom Quartz and Nephirim to the graveyard to bring out another Phantom Quartz.
I think we're just opening up zones so that way we can summon 3 fusion monsters. Otherwise, we weren't able to do it with Diamond Dispersion. That is Ruby. I believe that they have different names too. That's Topaz, and that is what's that young man's name? That is, I think it's called.
Even the opponent's like, what Gem Knight is that?
Is that Aquamarine? I think it's Aquamarine.
Yep. Yep, we did.
Okay, wow, so battle phase, attack, and that's
there it is! That is more than enough damage there. Isaias, our Gem Knight player, will be the victor in